scholars, I hope you're doing well. This is our vocabulary lesson for the week. So sometimes we do word work with things like there, and there, or two, and two. So this is our vocabulary lesson that's actually going to go along with the ELA story that we read called The Paper Bag Princess. If you haven't read it, please check out our ELA slides. There's a read aloud of me doing it in there, and you can read that along with me, all right? So we are going to work on improving our vocabulary this week. Yay! So we have 6 vocabulary words that we are going to work on, all right? Let's read them together. The first one is assumption, media, literacy, critical thinking, representation, and stereotype. Now, these 6 words are all very important to what we're going to be discussing over the next few weeks. I'm going to pause here, or you're going to pause the video, and you are going to go into your ELA slides, and you are going to go, you're going to go to your classwork. You're going to click ELA exit ticket May 7th, the one that says vocabulary. And before you go any further, I want to see what you know on your own, so without me. And I'd like you to highlight any words that you know in blue. So let's say you know the word media. You're going to highlight it. You're going to go like this. You're going to go to the highlight, and you're going to click blue. Okay? If you've heard a word, but you don't entirely know what it means, that's all right too. I want you to highlight it in yellow. And finally, if you don't know what a word is and you've never heard of it, you have no idea at all, I want you to highlight it in red, just so I can kind of see where you're at before we started this lesson, okay? Once you've done that, I want you to then unpause this video, and I want you to learn about some of these words with me, so that hopefully by the end you know all the words. So we're going to go through these in order. So the first word on our list is assumption. An assumption is when you think something about somebody or some group of people based on no facts, based on something that's not true. So this is a question I posed to my class last year, and I said, and this is true, I said, one of the people in this picture is a convicted felon. They've been to prison, they were accused of a crime, they got convicted, they went to prison. One of them isn't a convicted felon, has never been convicted of a crime, has never gone to prison. And I said, which one went to prison? And all of them said this guy right here. And in fact, that is not true. That was an assumption we made. This is Martha Stewart, and she has been to prison. She did something, she went to prison. This is Snoop Dogg, he has never been to prison. And so then we started to talk about, well, why did we make that assumption? Why did we assume, assumption has the word assume in it, right? Why did we assume that he had been to prison when she had not? And it turns out that it wasn't based in fact, right? It wasn't like somebody knew that he had gone to prison. So we assumed something, we thought something about somebody based on something that was not a fact, that was not true. So that's an assumption. All right? So when we make assumptions, we're thinking we know something about someone without it necessarily being true. So for example, if I walked into class one day and I met you all for the very, very, very first time, and I maybe looked at somebody and I said, they must love sports, and I've never met them before, and I'm just going to say, they love sports. What am I basing that on, right? Not just, I don't know it for a fact, I'm just assuming it. So an assumption is when I think something without having factual basis to back it up, all right? Next, media, all right? This is one I think that you all might know already. Media, but it expands beyond what you might think. So media is any form of information that can go to lots and lots and lots and lots of people. So if I'm just talking to one person, or even right now, I'm just talking to a few of you, right, to just our class, that's not media, because it's from one person or a small group of people to another small group of people. Media is something where you give a lot of information or even a small bit of information to a lot of people. So some examples of media are when we read in the newspaper, because one newspaper, if 1 million people read a newspaper, then, they're getting a lot of information. It's being given to a lot of people. The internet is media because we can look up information, and it's a mass way, or a way where a lot of people can get information. TikTok, right? You have videos that have over 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million views. If you have that many people viewing something, it's getting information to a lot of people. So media is anything where one piece of information can be given to a mass amount of people or a large group of people, right? Literacy, all right, sounds like literary, right? Literature. It has to do with being able to read. But one thing that I want to push us on, and that's why I included this picture, is that it's not just reading a book. It might be reading anything. If I'm looking at a TV show, even if I'm not reading words, I'm still getting information. And reading goes beyond just reading words. You're also intaking information and learning information. And so it's the ability to understand information that you're learning, that it's being given to you, be it through books, be it through mail, be it through a computer, be it through a video. Literacy is the ability to take in and understand and read information, but read, it doesn't have to be about words. It's about any information that's being given to you, right? In whatever media or medium in the case, as it is, in whatever medium it is, right? Then we go on to critical thinking. So literacy is the ability to read, right? Critical thinking is then the ability to understand what you're reading, to think about what you're reading, to ask yourself questions about what you're reading, and come to a conclusion about it. So I'll give an example. If I read to you a book, and in the book it said, pigs can fly, right? That's the book. The book says pigs can fly. So if I can read those words, and if you can read those words, that's literacy. You're reading it. Now, critical thinking is you thinking about it and you using what you have in your brain to decide, does this information make sense? Or is there maybe something I'm missing here? Should I question it, right? Questioning what is being given to you. So you're not just taking something in without thinking about it, right? So remember, we said when we had Kobe Bryant's, when he unfortunately passed away, and some people said some things I remember, like, oh, his wife is pregnant with a boy, or I heard someone else say, like, somebody predicted that he was going to die in a crash, so that's why it happened. So we read those things, right? Or we heard them in some way. Now we have to actually think about those things. Do those make sense? Are those probably true, or are those probably not true? And that is critical thinking. Thinking for yourself, reasoning for yourself. Representation. So this is one that we talked about a little bit when we were reading the book. Representation is seeing people, different types of people in different spaces. So I pulled two pictures of the Avengers. This is a picture of the Avengers from the 1970s. You'll notice we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 white men. We have 1 black man. We have 1 woman. Oh, and a guy here too. Okay, another white guy. And he's not actually human, so I don't think he counts. But in all of these, we only have 1 woman and we have 1 person of color. We don't have, it's mostly white men. So what we're seeing here is representation of mostly 1 race and mostly 1 gender being superheroes. Fast forward to today, not what I meant to do. And you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3, at least women, right? 1, 2 people of color. It's not great, right? And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white men. So it's not great. It's not perfect, but we're seeing more representation. We're seeing more people who look different in the media doing certain things, right? So if we only ever saw white men as superheroes, then the representation is just white men. Or as we read in The Paper Bag Princess, most fairy tale stories represent men as people who can save somebody and princesses as somebody who need to be saved. And the representation in The Paper Bag Princess is switched. So we have a boy being saved by a girl, right? And princesses can save people too, as Jada and Danya and some others talked about, right? So representation is, where do we see people in media? Do we see only men doing something? Do we see only white people doing something? Do we see only straight people doing something? Do we see only Christian people doing something? Do we see only Jewish people doing something? Do we see only women doing something? Like, what do we see? What's the representation of us, right? And last but not least, we have a stereotype. A stereotype is kind of like an assumption, but on a bigger scale. So an assumption is generally about 1 person or a small group of people. A stereotype is like a widely held belief about a group of people that often is not based in fact, or in fact is almost never based in fact. So here we have some pictures of stereotypes, which I thought was kind of cool. And so you'll notice that, you know, the girl side is pink, the boy side is blue, and the girl is dressed like a princess, the boy's dressed like a soldier, the girl's got ponies and castles and hearts, the boy has guitars and guns, which are not safe, and a football. And that's not necessarily the case at all, right? In fact, if you look, and we'll be talking about this, there are boys who love castles. There are boys who live in castles, right? Princes live in castles. There are girls who are soldiers. There are girls who love to rock out on a guitar. So a stereotype is thinking, okay, all girls love pink. All boys love blue. All boys don't cry. All girls don't love sports. All boys do love sports. So it's making a generalization, an assumption about a group of people, right? And that is, I think, what's really important to see here is it's sort of an assumption, but on a big scale, and oftentimes not based in fact, because as I said before, right, we can have boys who live in castles, boys who love ponies and horses and unicorns. And it's thinking about, when we say this about a group of people, is it true or is it a stereotype? Is it based in fact or is it not? All right, it's not a stereotype to say that people with glasses need help being able to see clearly, because that's what glasses are, right? Like, glasses are the thing that help you see. But to say, okay, all people with glasses are smart, now that is a stereotype. That's assuming that just because someone has glasses, they are therefore smart. It's a very small difference, but it's an important one, and it's one we're going to talk about more. So now that we've done this together, your job is to go back into your classwork, go back into this ELA exit ticket, and do 2 slides. You are going to do slide 3, where you fill in the blank, using one of these words to fill in each blank, and you're going to match the word to its definition. And then here you're going to choose 4 out of 6 words, and you're going to write a sentence with each of those words. All right, scholars, that's all I got for you today. I love you so much. I will see you tomorrow.